My name is Clytus Mitchell, 58, retired electrician living in a trailer park. Yesterday my son texted, "Dad, we bought an $800K house but need you to cover the mortgage. Your generation hoarded wealth while we struggled. Time to step up and help the family." What happened next will shock you. See, Brandon thinks I'm broke. He sees my beat-up Honda, my coupon clipping, my $31 electric bills, and assumes I'm living paycheck to paycheck on Social Security. He has no idea about the laptop on my kitchen table, no idea about the numbers inside, no idea that his broke father has been quietly building something for 25 years, something worth $3.18 million. When I opened that laptop and made my next phone call, everything changed between us forever. Because sometimes the people who demand your money are the ones who deserve it least. Subscribe to hear what I did next, and how my son learned the hardest lesson of his life. Let me tell you about my life here in Desert Vista Mobile Home Park. It's not much to look at. My trailer sits on Lot 43, a 1985 model that I bought cash 15 years ago for $8,000. Every morning at 6:30, I wake up without an alarm, old habits from 30 years of union work. The thermostat stays at 78 degrees year-round. In Phoenix summers, that means I sweat. In winter, I wear sweaters inside. My electric bill runs $31 a month. I drive my Honda Civic to Walmart twice a week, always on Tuesdays and Fridays. Gas costs less on weekdays. The car has 243,000 miles on it. Still runs smooth, still gets 38 miles per gallon. My shopping cart tells the whole story. Generic cereal, store-brand peanut butter, day-old bread from the discount rack. I use coupons, all of them. The cashiers know me. They see my worn leather wallet, count my exact change, watch me save every receipt. I built this life brick by brick. Every dollar has a purpose. People in the park wave when I walk by. They call me Clytus. They think I'm just another retiree living on Social Security. They're not wrong, but they're not right either. The truth sits in a Dell laptop on my kitchen table. It's 7 years old. Still works fine. The screen has a small crack in the corner from when I dropped it 2 years ago. But the numbers inside are perfect. Brandon used to visit more often. When he was in college, he'd drive down from Tempe every few weeks. We'd sit in my small living room, talk about his classes, his girlfriend Jasmine, his plans for the future. I'd make us coffee from the same can of Folgers I've been buying for 20 years. He was proud of me then. Proud of how I worked my way up from apprentice to journeyman. Proud of how I saved enough to help pay his tuition at Arizona State. Proud of how I never missed a payment. Never asked for help from anyone. "Dad, you're the most honest man I know," he told me at his graduation ceremony 3 years ago. I believed him. After he got his marketing job at the consulting firm, the visits became shorter, then less frequent. Phone calls turned into text messages. Text messages turned into birthday cards and Christmas dinner invitations. Jasmine is a nice girl. I like her. She laughs at my old work stories. She brings me cookies sometimes. She's 6 months pregnant now with their first child, a boy. They're going to name him Clytus, after me. Or they were. Brandon makes $95,000 a year. Jasmine makes $62,000 as a nurse. Together they earn more in 1 year than I ever made in 2. They drive matching BMW sedans. They take vacations to places I can't pronounce. They live in a world I helped build but was never invited to join, which was fine. I raised him to be independent, to work hard, to stand on his own feet. I never expected gratitude. I never asked for recognition. I just wanted him to remember where he came from. The trailer park gets quiet around 9 o'clock every night. I sit on my small front porch, drinking instant coffee from a chipped mug, watching the sunset paint the desert orange and purple. It's peaceful, simple, everything I thought I wanted. But peace is fragile. And yesterday at 3:47 in the afternoon, my phone buzzed with a message that shattered 25 years of careful construction. I was replacing a loose wire on my neighbor's porch light when my phone buzzed. Mrs. Rodriguez is 86 years old and lives on a fixed income. Her granddaughter usually handles these things, but she was working late. I don't charge Mrs. Rodriguez. Never have. It's what neighbors do. The phone was in my back pocket. An iPhone 8 that I bought refurbished 3 years ago for $140. Still works fine. The screen protector has a few scratches, but the display is clear enough. I pulled off my work gloves and looked at the screen. Brandon's name appeared with a text message. My first thought was happiness. He doesn't text much anymore. Maybe he wanted to share news about the baby. Maybe he had an ultrasound photo to show me. I opened the message. Dad, Jasmine's pregnant and we bought our dream house. $800,000 mortgage. I know you live simple, but it's time for your generation to help us out. Just liquidate some savings. I read it again. Then again. Mrs. Rodriguez asked if everything was okay. I told her yes, finished tightening the wire connection, and handed her back the screwdriver I'd borrowed. I walked the 50 yards back to my trailer in slow motion. My work boots felt heavy on the gravel path. The desert air felt thick. The sun felt too bright. Inside my trailer, I sat at my small kitchen table and stared at the message. Just liquidate some savings. Like it was nothing. Like 25 years of discipline and sacrifice could be summarized in 4 casual words. Like I was some kind of emergency fund he could tap whenever life got expensive. I thought about calling him. I picked up the phone twice and set it down twice. What would I say? How do you respond to something like that? My hands were shaking. Not from anger, from something deeper, something that felt like grief. Brandon assumed I was poor. That hurt, but I understood it. I live like I'm poor. I act like I'm poor. In most ways that matter, I am poor. My monthly expenses run $860. Social Security covers most of it. The small pension from the union covers the rest. But he also assumed I was obligated to him. That my money, whatever little he thought I had, belonged to him by birthright. That being his father meant being his financial backup plan. That's what broke something inside me. I thought about his childhood. The Christmas when he was 8 years old and wanted a bicycle, a red Schwinn that cost $147. I worked overtime for 6 weeks to afford it. I remember his face Christmas morning. Pure joy. Daddy, you're the best. I thought about his high school graduation, how proud he looked in his cap and gown, how he hugged me afterward and said, Dad, I couldn't have done this without you. I thought about college move-in day, how we loaded his dorm room together, how he introduced me to his roommate as my dad, the guy who built half of Phoenix, the pride in his voice, the respect. When did that change? When did I become a resource instead of a person? I made myself a cup of instant coffee and sat back down at the table. The laptop was closed, sitting 6 inches from my phone. 2 pieces of technology that contained the entire truth about my life. The phone showed my son's demand. The laptop showed my secret. For 25 years I'd been planning to surprise him, to reveal everything when he got married or when his first child was born, or when he bought his first house. I imagined the moment, the shock on his face, the realization that his old man wasn't just a blue-collar retiree living paycheck to paycheck. I was going to help him with the down payment, maybe even buy the house outright. I was going to set up college funds for his children. I was going to make sure he never had to worry about money the way I did growing up, but not like this. Not because he demanded it, not because he thought he deserved it. I opened the laptop. The screen flickered to life, showing my desktop wallpaper, a photo of Brandon and me from his college graduation, both of us smiling, both of us believing in something that apparently no longer existed. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I could open my investment accounts, show him the numbers, prove that I wasn't the broke old man he thought I was, or I could teach him something more valuable than money. I closed the laptop. I picked up my phone and typed a response. No. 1 word. 3 letters. The first boundary I'd ever set with my son about money. I hit send and waited. The response came back in 43 seconds. Dad, seriously? It's not like I'm asking for charity. This is family. Then another message. I know you have something saved up. You always taught me to save money. Then another. Jasmine's pregnant. We need stability. I thought you'd understand. Each message felt like a small knife. Each message revealed how little he knew about the man who raised him. Each message confirmed what I was beginning to suspect. My son didn't see me as a person with feelings, boundaries, and dignity. He saw me as a bank account with a pulse. I turned off the phone and walked to my closet. In the back, behind my work shirts and winter coats, was a small filing cabinet I'd bought at a yard sale 12 years ago. Inside were 25 years of investment statements, property deeds, and financial documents. I pulled out the most recent portfolio statement and spread it on my kitchen table next to the laptop. The numbers stared back at me. Black ink on white paper. 25 years of 10% annual returns, compounded monthly, reinvested alkalidosatically. $3.18 million. More money than Brandon would earn in 30 years. Hidden in plain sight in the trailer park he was too busy to visit. Let me tell you how it started. 1999. I was 33 years old, married to Linda, Brandon's mother. We lived in a small apartment in Tempe. I was making $32,000 a year as a journeyman electrician. Linda worked part-time at a daycare center, bringing home another $8,000. We weren't poor, but we weren't comfortable either. Every month was a math problem. Rent, utilities, groceries, gas, Linda's student loans from nursing school. At the end of each month, we had maybe $50 left over, sometimes less. Brandon was 4 years old then. Smart as hell, curious about everything, expensive in the way that children are expensive. Clothes, shoes, doctor visits, birthday parties, toys that broke after a week. Linda and I would lie in bed at night talking about the future, college tuition, a house with a yard, maybe a vacation somewhere beyond Lake Pleasant, dreams that felt impossible but necessary to have. "We need to start investing," Linda said one night. "My dad always said the stock market is how working people become wealthy." I laughed. Not mean, just tired. "Honey, we don't have money to invest. We barely have money to live." She sat up in bed, turned on the lamp, and pulled out a calculator. Linda was always good with numbers, better than me. "If we can save $50 a month," she said, "and invest it in index funds and get 10% returns annually, we'll have $600,000 in 30 years. $50 a month might as well be $500, I told her. She was quiet for a minute, doing more math. What if we cut our expenses? Really cut them. Move to a cheaper place. Buy generic everything. Stop eating out. Cancel cable. Use coupons for everything. We already do most of that. Not really. We spend $40 a month on restaurants, $25 on cable, $60 on name brand groceries instead of generic, $15 on coffee shops. That's $140 right there." I looked at the calculator. She was right. So we live like monks for 30 years so we can be rich when we're old. We live like monks so Brandon can have opportunities we never had. That's how it started. With a calculator and a dream, and Linda's stubborn belief that small sacrifices become big rewards if you're patient enough. We moved to a smaller apartment, $720 a month instead of $950. We canceled cable, bought an antenna for local channels. We stopped buying name brand anything. Kroger brand cereal, Great Value peanut butter, generic laundry detergent that smelled like nothing but worked just fine. Linda made coffee at home instead of buying it at work. I brought peanut butter sandwiches for lunch instead of eating at the diner with the other guys. We found free entertainment, city parks, library story time, hiking trails. Brandon never knew we were sacrificing. He had birthday parties, he had Christmas presents, he had new school clothes every fall. We just made sure those things came from yard sales, discount stores, and careful planning instead of impulse purchases. By the end of the first year, we had saved $840. Linda opened a Fidelity account and bought shares in the S&P 500 index fund. We owned a tiny piece of America's biggest companies. "This is it," she said. "This is how we change our family's future." She was right. Year 2, we saved $1,060. Year 3, $1,200. We got better at finding savings, more disciplined about saying no to things we wanted but didn't need. I picked up overtime whenever it was available. Time and a half for Saturday work, double time for emergency calls. Linda got a promotion at the daycare center, then moved to a better-paying job at a pediatrician's office. By the time Brandon started kindergarten, we had $4,000 invested. Small money to most people, life-changing money to us. Then Linda got sick. Cancer. Aggressive. The kind that takes everything you have and demands more. I spent 2 years watching the strongest person I knew get smaller and smaller. I spent 2 years driving back and forth to Phoenix for treatments that cost more than my truck was worth. I spent 2 years learning that love means watching someone suffer and knowing you can't fix it. Linda died 3 weeks before Brandon's 10th birthday. I thought about pulling the money out of our investment account. using it for medical bills, funeral costs, the practical expenses of suddenly becoming a single father. But Linda made me promise not to. "That money isn't for us," she said during one of her last good days. "It's for him. It's for Brandon's future. Promise me you won't touch it." I promised. The investment account had grown to $18,000 by then. After Linda died, I added to it religiously, every month, every overtime check, every tax refund, every raise. I moved us to a smaller place, a duplex in a neighborhood that wasn't great but wasn't dangerous. Brandon had his own room. We had a small yard. Rent was $580 a month. I learned to cook. Spaghetti with generic sauce, hamburger helper, pork chops and mashed potatoes, simple food that filled us up and didn't cost much. Brandon never complained. He was a good kid, adaptable, resilient. For 15 years, it was just the two of us, father and son against the world. I worked, he studied. I saved money, he earned good grades. I planned for his future, he planned for his own. College was expensive, even with scholarships. Arizona State tuition, room, board, books, all the things 18-year-olds need to become adults. I paid every penny without touching the investment account. Worked extra jobs. Sold my truck and bought a used Honda. Moved to an even smaller place. Brandon graduated with a degree in marketing and zero debt. I graduated with pride and an investment account worth $430,000. He got his first job, then a better job, then an even better job. He met Jasmine, they moved in together, then got engaged, then married in a beautiful ceremony that cost more than I used to make in a year. I was proud of him, proud of the man he'd become, proud of the life he'd built. I kept saving, kept investing, kept living small so the account could grow large. By the time he sent me that text message, the account had grown to $1.8 million, plus $950,000 in rental properties I'd bought with cash over the years, plus $430,000 in CDs and savings accounts. $3.18 million, more money than Linda and I ever dreamed of having. Money we'd saved for Brandon, money we'd planned to give him when the time was right. But not like this. Not because he demanded it, not because he thought he deserved it. The time was right when respect came with the request. The time was right when gratitude came before expectation. The time was right when he saw me as his father, not his financier. Yesterday's text message told me the time wasn't right. Yesterday's text message told me I had failed as a father in ways I was just beginning to understand. I sat at my kitchen table for 3 hours that night, staring at the portfolio statement spread out next to my phone. The numbers didn't change. $3.18 million, more than enough to pay Brandon's mortgage and still leave him wealthy for life. But numbers aren't everything. Character matters more than cash. Respect matters more than relationships. Some lessons cost more than money. I thought about Linda. What would she say about Brandon's text message? What would she want me to do? I knew the answer. Linda believed in teaching through consequences, not lectures. When Brandon was 12 and stole a candy bar from the corner store, she didn't yell at him. She marched him back to apologize and pay for it, then made him work extra chores for a month to earn money for charity. "Actions have consequences," she told him. "Good actions, good consequences. Bad actions, bad consequences. That's how the world works." Brandon learned the lesson. He never stole anything again. Now he was 32 years old, stealing something much more valuable than candy. He was stealing my dignity, my right to choose how I spend my own money, my boundaries as a human being. Time for another lesson. I opened my laptop and logged into my Fidelity account. The dashboard loaded slowly on my old computer, but eventually the numbers appeared. Stock portfolio, $1,812,436. I scrolled through the account details. 23 years of Oclitusatic monthly investments. $500 a month for the first 10 years. $800 a month for the next 7 years. $1,000 a month for the last 6 years. Every deposit represented a sacrifice. A vacation not taken. A restaurant meal skipped. A new truck not bought. Overtime hours worked instead of time spent relaxing. Brandon had no idea. To him, I was just a broke retiree living in a trailer park, driving an old Honda, shopping with coupons. He saw the lifestyle but missed the strategy. He saw the frugality but missed the discipline. He saw the outside but missed the inside completely. That was partly my fault. I'd been too good at hiding my wealth, too committed to living below my means, too successful at appearing ordinary, but it was also his fault for not asking questions, for not showing interest in my financial situation beyond assuming I had some savings to liquidate on command. I pulled out a yellow legal pad and started making a plan. Step 1. Call my financial advisor Clytus Oro Morning, Richard Morton at Fidelity. We'd been working together for 8 years. He knew my goals, my timeline, my conservative approach to risk management. Step 2. Prepare documentation, portfolio statements, property deeds, bank account summaries, physical evidence that couldn't be dismissed or explained away. Step 3. Arrange a face-to-face meeting with Brandon, not at his house, where he'd feel comfortable and in control, not at my trailer where he'd feel sorry for me. Somewhere neutral, somewhere public, somewhere he couldn't storm out easily. Step 4. Show him the truth, all of it. Let the numbers speak for themselves. Step 5. Explain the consequences, not punishment. Education. The difference between entitlement and inheritance. The difference between demanding and requesting. The difference between assumption and communication. This wasn't about revenge. I didn't want to hurt Brandon. I wanted to save him from becoming the kind of man who treats family members like ATM machines. This wasn't about money. $3 million means nothing if you raise children who see you as a resource instead of a person. This was about respect, about boundaries, about teaching a 32-year-old man lessons he should have learned at 12. I folded the legal pad and slipped it into my wallet. Then I closed the laptop and walked to my bedroom. I set my alarm for 6 o'clock, 30 minutes earlier than usual. Clytus Oro was going to be a long day. Clytus Oro was going to change everything between Brandon and me. Clytus Oro, my son, was going to learn who his father really was. And maybe, if I was lucky, I was going to learn who my son really was too. Some lessons cost everything, but some lessons are worth everything. I fell asleep knowing I was about to find out which kind this would be. I woke up at 5:30, 30 minutes before my alarm. Old habits from 3 decades of union work. My body knows when it's time to get things done. I made coffee with the same Folgers I've been buying for 20 years. Black, no sugar. I sat at my kitchen table and called Richard Morton at Fidelity. Richard's been my financial advisor for 8 years. We met when I started getting serious about real estate investments. He's younger than Brandon, maybe 28, but he understands money better than most people twice his age. Clytus, he said when he picked up. You're calling early. Everything okay? I need to see my complete portfolio summary. Everything. Stocks, bonds, real estate, CDs, checking, savings. I need it printed out and ready for pickup this morning. That's a lot of paperwork. Is this for tax purposes? It's for family purposes. Richard was quiet for a moment. He knew I lived simply. He knew I didn't talk about money with anyone. He'd probably wondered why a retiree in a trailer park had been building such substantial wealth. How detailed do you want the summaries? I want every account balance, every property value, every monthly dividend payment. I want dates of purchase, rates of return, current market values. I want someone to look at these papers and understand exactly how much money we're talking about. Okay. That'll take me about an hour to compile and print. Can you be here around 10? I'll be there at 9:30. After I hung up, I showered and put on my best clothes. A button-down shirt Linda bought me for Brandon's college graduation. Dark blue slacks I wear to church on Christmas and Easter. Black shoes I polish twice a year whether they need it or not. I drove my Honda Civic to Fidelity's office in Scottsdale, 26 miles from my trailer park to the financial district. 2 different worlds connected by the same highway. Richard met me in the lobby with a thick manila folder. Inside were 43 pages of account statements, property deeds, and investment summaries. Everything I'd built over 25 years reduced to numbers on white paper. Clytus, Richard said as he handed me the folder, I have to ask, is everything all right? This seems unusual for you. I'm fine. My family situation is about to change, that's all. He nodded, understanding that some conversations are private, even when they involve public money. Call me if you need anything else. I drove back toward Phoenix, but instead of going home, I stopped at a Starbucks near Brandon's office. Not because I drink Starbucks coffee. $5 for coffee is $5 I could invest. But because I needed somewhere public, neutral, and comfortable for a conversation that was going to be uncomfortable. I texted Brandon from the parking lot. Need to talk. Can you meet me at the Starbucks on Camelback and 24th Street? Now? His response came back quickly. Dad, I'm at work. Can this wait until tonight? No, this is about your text message. We need to talk now. Is everything okay? Everything's fine. Just come. 20 minutes later, Brandon's BMW pulled into the parking lot. Even from a distance, I could see the stress on his face. He looked tired, worried, maybe even a little guilty. He walked into the coffee shop wearing a tailored suit that probably cost more than my monthly expenses. His shoes were leather. His watch was expensive. His haircut was perfect. He looked successful, prosperous, like a man who had everything he needed and most of what he wanted. So why was he asking his father for money? "Dad," he said, sitting down across from me, "what's this about? You're scaring me." I placed the manila folder on the table between us. "This is about your text message yesterday. Look, if this is about the money, we can work something out. Maybe a loan instead of a gift. We can pay you back over time." "Brandon, how much money do you think I have?" He shifted in his chair. "I don't know. Some savings, I guess. Maybe 20 or 30,000? Enough to help us with the down payment." "You think I have $30,000? Maybe less. I don't really know your financial situation, Dad. You never talk about money." "You're right. I don't talk about money. But you assumed I had money to give you anyway." "I just thought... you raised me to save money. You always told me to invest. I figured you followed your own advice." I opened the folder and pulled out the first document, my stock portfolio statement from Fidelity, current balance in bold numbers at the top of the page. I turned it around so Brandon could read it. $1,812,436. Brandon stared at the paper. "Dad, what is this?" "This is my stock portfolio. 23 years of investing $500 to $1,000 every month in S&P 500 index funds." I pulled out the second document. Property deed for a duplex in Tempe. This is a rental property I bought for cash in 2018. Current market value, $420,000. Third document. Property deed for a single-family house in Mesa. This is another rental property. Current market value, $530,000. Fourth document. CD and savings account statements. These are my cash reserves. $430,000 in CDs and high-yield savings accounts. Brandon's face had gone pale. He picked up each document, studied the numbers, set them down with shaking hands. "Dad, I don't understand. You live in a trailer park." "I choose to live in a trailer park. You drive a 20-year-old Honda." "I choose to drive a 20-year-old Honda." "You shop with coupons." "I choose to shop with coupons." "But why?" I leaned back in my chair and looked at my son. Really looked at him. The confusion in his eyes. The shock. The dawning realization that everything he thought he knew about his father was wrong. Because every dollar I didn't spend on myself was a dollar I could invest for your future. Brandon was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, $3.18 million. $3.18 million. You're a millionaire. I'm your father who happens to have money. There's a difference. He looked at the papers again, then back at me. And I asked you to liquidate your savings to pay my mortgage. You demanded that I liquidate my savings to pay your mortgage. Dad, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. That's the problem, son. You had no idea, but you made demands anyway. The conversation was just getting started. Brandon pushed the papers back toward me like they were on fire. Dad, I don't know what to say. I'm embarrassed. I'm sorry. If I'd known... Stop right there. I kept my voice quiet, but firm. If you'd known what? If you'd known I was wealthy, then what? You would have asked more politely? You would have said please? Well, yes, of course. But since you thought I was poor, it was okay to demand my money? Brandon opened his mouth, then closed it. He was beginning to understand the trap he'd built for himself. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? He ran his hands through his hair, a nervous habit he'd had since childhood. I thought you had a little money saved up, maybe enough to help with the down payment. I didn't think you'd miss it. You didn't think I'd miss it. You know what I mean. No, I don't know what you mean. Explain it to me. Brandon looked around the coffee shop. A few other Cusclidisers were scattered at different tables, reading newspapers, typing on laptops, minding their own business. But he lowered his voice anyway. Dad, You live so simply. I thought maybe you had some money tucked away that you weren't using. I thought maybe you'd want to help us get started. I do live simply. I have been saving money, and I do want to help you get started, but not like this. What do you mean, not like this? I spread the financial documents across the table again. These papers represent 25 years of sacrifice, 25 years of choosing investment over indulgence, 25 years of planning for your future. Brandon stared at the numbers. My future? Your mother and I started this portfolio when you were 4 years old. Every dollar in these accounts was saved with you in mind. College tuition, wedding expenses, a house down payment, your children's future. You were planning to give me this money? I was planning to share this wealth with you when the time was right. When would the time have been right? When you asked instead of demanded. When you showed respect instead of entitlement. When you treated me like your father instead of your personal bank. Brandon was quiet for almost a minute. I could see him processing, thinking, beginning to realize how badly he'd miscalculated. Your text message told me everything I needed to know about how you see our relationship, I continued. You see me as a resource, a safety net, a backup plan for when your own planning falls short. That's not true, isn't it? You bought an $800,000 house without a plan to pay for it. Then you texted me, not called, not visited, but texted me demanding that I solve your problem. We have a plan. Jasmine and I both have good jobs. We can afford the monthly payments. Then why do you need my money? Because, he stopped, thought, started again. Because it would make things easier. Easier for who? For us, for Jasmine, for the baby. And what about me? What makes things easier for me? Brandon looked confused. I don't understand. You never asked what was best for me. You never asked if I could afford to help. You never asked if giving you $800,000 would impact my own financial security. But you have $3 million that I spent 25 years accumulating, that I live in a trailer park to preserve, that I drive an old Honda to protect, that I shop with coupons to grow. I didn't know. You didn't ask. The weight of that statement hung between us. 4 words that summarized everything wrong with Brandon's approach to family relationships. You assumed, I continued, that your needs mattered more than my boundaries. You assumed that being my son entitled you to my resources. You assumed that I owed you financial support because we share DNA. Dad, you're making this sound worse than it was. Am I? Read your text message again. I pulled out my phone and opened the message thread. Just liquidate some savings. Your exact words. Not could you help us. And not would you consider. Not we'd be grateful. Just liquidate some savings. Like I was your employee taking orders. Brandon's face flushed red. I was stressed. Jasmine's pregnant. We just bought our first house. I wasn't thinking clearly. Stress doesn't excuse disrespect. I wasn't trying to be disrespectful. Intent doesn't erase impact. We sat in silence for another minute. Around us, the coffee shop hummed with normal life. People ordering drinks, chatting with friends, checking their phones. None of them dealing with a family crisis that 25 years in the making. What happens now? Brandon finally asked. That depends on you. What do you mean? I mean you have a choice to make. You can see this conversation as punishment, get angry, and storm out. Or you can see this conversation as education, accept responsibility, and grow from it. I choose education. Do you? Because education is uncomfortable. Education means admitting you were wrong. Education means changing how you think about family relationships. I was wrong. I admit that. I should have asked differently. I should have been more respectful. You should have asked if I wanted to help instead of assuming that I had to help. You're right. You should have considered my feelings instead of just your needs. You're right. You should have treated me like a person instead of a solution to your problem. You're absolutely right. I looked at my son across the table. He seemed smaller now, younger, like the boy who used to sit in the same position asking for help with homework instead of mortgage payments. Brandon, I love you. I want you to succeed. I want you and Jasmine and the baby to have a good life. But I won't be taken for granted. I won't be treated like a resource instead of a person. I understand. Do you? Because this isn't just about money. This is about respect. This is about how you see me and how you treat me going forward. I see you as my father, the man who raised me and sacrificed for me and somehow saved $3 million while living in a trailer park. And I should have recognized that earlier. I should have asked about your life instead of assuming I knew everything about it. And I should have shown gratitude for everything you've already given me instead of demanding more. I nodded. That's a start. What about the house? What about the mortgage? I gathered the financial documents and slipped them back into the manila folder. That's your problem to solve. But you could help us. I could, but I won't. Not like this. What would it take? For you to help, I mean. I stood up from the table and looked down at my son. It would take time. It would take changed behavior. It would take you proving that you see me as your father instead of your financier. How long? However long it takes. Dad, Jasmine's pregnant. We need stability. Then you better figure out how to provide it. I walked toward the door, then turned back. Respect isn't inherited, Brandon. It's earned. I left him sitting at the table with his expensive suit and his expensive watch and his expensive problems. Some lessons cost more than money. I drove home in silence, my hands gripping the steering wheel of my Honda Civic. The radio stayed off. I needed quiet to process what had just happened. 25 years of planning had just collapsed into 30 minutes of painful honesty. Back at the trailer park, I sat on my small front porch and waited. I knew Brandon would call, probably multiple times. Young people don't handle uncomfortable silences well. They need resolution, explanation, immediate answers to complex problems. The first call came an hour later. Dad, we need to finish our conversation. We did finish it. You can't just walk away like that. I can do whatever I want with my own life and my own money. Dad, be reasonable. Jasmine's 6 months pregnant. We can't just return the house. You should have thought about that before you bought it. We thought we had family support. You assumed you had family support. You never asked for it. The line went quiet. Then Brandon said, "What if I apologize? Officially? What if I admit I was wrong and ask properly? What if you do? Would you help us then?" I don't know. Dad, that's not fair. Fair. I felt something hot rise in my chest. You want to talk about fair? Is it fair that I spent 25 years saving money for your future while you assumed I was broke? Is it fair that you demanded my help without asking what I wanted? Is it fair that you treated me like a bank instead of your father? No, you're right, it's not fair. Then don't talk to me about what's fair. I hung up. The second call came that evening. Dad, it's Jasmine. I liked Jasmine. She was kind, hardworking, respectful. She'd never asked me for money. She'd never treated me like anything other than Brandon's father and her friend. Hi, Jasmine. Brandon told me about your conversation today. About the money. What about it? I had no idea you were wealthy. I feel terrible. You didn't send the text message. No, but I knew Brandon was going to ask you for help. I should have told him to be more respectful about it. You shouldn't have to tell a 32-year-old man to be respectful to his father. You're right. But, Dad, we're really in trouble here. The mortgage payment is $4,800 a month. With the baby coming, my maternity leave will be unpaid. We're going to struggle. Jasmine's voice cracked a little. She was scared, pregnant, scared, and married to a man who just burned a bridge with his wealthy father. Jasmine, how much money did you think I had? I don't know. Brandon said you lived simply but had some savings. Maybe enough to help with the down payment. $10,000 or $20,000. And you were comfortable with him asking me for that much money? We were desperate. The house we wanted had multiple offers. We had to move fast or lose it. So you borrowed money you didn't have to buy a house you couldn't afford. When you put it like that, it sounds irresponsible. It was irresponsible. Jasmine started crying. Not loud, dramatic sobs, but quiet tears that I could hear through the phone. I know it was. We know it was. But we're here now and we don't know what to do. This was the conversation I'd been dreading. The one where Brandon's poor choices became Jasmine's problem, where an innocent person suffered consequences for someone else's arrogance. Jasmine, I have enough money to pay your mortgage 10 times over, but if I solve this problem for you, Brandon will never learn the lesson he needs to learn. What lesson? That actions have consequences. That family relationships require respect, not just blood. that his father is a person with feelings and boundaries, not a resource to exploit when life gets expensive. I understand. But what about the baby? What about our future? What about them? If we lose the house, if we can't make the payments, what happens to our family? You figure it out. Like adults, like responsible people, like everyone else who doesn't have wealthy parents to bail them out. But you are wealthy. You could help us. I could, but helping you now would hurt you later. How? Because Brandon would never respect me again. He'd see me as a pushover who gives in when pressured, and next time he makes a bad financial decision, he'll call me again, and again, and again. Jasmine was quiet for a long moment. So there's nothing we can do to earn your help? I didn't say that. Then what? Time will tell. After I hung up, I walked to my kitchen and made a cup of instant coffee. The same brand I'd been drinking for 20 years still tasted fine to me. My phone buzzed with a text message from Brandon. Dad, I've been thinking about everything you said today. You're right. I was wrong. I disrespected you and took you for granted. I'm sorry. I read the message twice, then set the phone down without responding. Another message came an hour later. I know saying sorry isn't enough. I need to show you that I understand what I did wrong. I need to earn back your respect. Still no response from me. A third message before I went to bed. I don't know how to fix this, but I want to try. Will you give me a chance to make things right? I turned off my phone and went to sleep, but sleep didn't come easily. I kept thinking about Jasmine, 6 months pregnant, scared about their financial future. I kept thinking about my future grandchild, who would be born into whatever mess Brandon had created. I kept thinking about Linda and what she would want me to do. The truth was complicated. Brandon needed to learn a lesson about respect and responsibility, but Jasmine and the baby were innocent. They shouldn't suffer because of Brandon's arrogance. The truth was also simple. If I bailed them out now, Brandon would never grow up. He'd remain a child in an adult's body, believing that Daddy would always fix his problems. But if I didn't help them, my first grandchild might grow up in financial insecurity because of his father's pride and his grandfather's principles. Some lessons cost more than the people learning them. Some lessons cost more than the people teaching them, too. 3 days passed without any contact from Brandon or Jasmine. No calls, no texts, no visits. The silence felt heavy, like storm clouds building pressure before rain. I tried to keep my normal routine. Coffee at 6:30, check on Mrs. Rodriguez next door, drive to Walmart for groceries on Tuesday and Friday. But everything felt different now. The secret I'd kept for 25 years was out, and I wasn't sure what came next. On Thursday evening, I was replacing a loose board on my front porch when a car pulled into the visitor parking space, not Brandon's BMW, a small sedan I didn't recognize. A woman got out, mid-50s, gray hair, wearing scrubs. She looked familiar, but I couldn't place her until she walked closer. Mr. Mitchell? I'm Karen Walsh, Jasmine's mother. I set down my hammer and stood up. Nice to meet you. I hope you don't mind me stopping by. Jasmine gave me your address. I wanted to talk to you about what happened with Brandon. That's between Brandon and me. I know, but it's affecting my daughter, and my daughter is carrying my grandchild. Fair enough. I gestured toward the 2 plastic chairs on my porch. Would you like to sit down? Karen looked around the trailer park, taking in the modest homes, the older cars, the simple life I'd chosen. Jasmine told me about your conversation with Brandon, about the money. What about it? She said you have enough money to help them, but you're choosing not to. That's one way to look at it. Is there another way? I'm teaching my son that actions have consequences, that respect matters more than blood relationships, that entitlement doesn't earn inheritance. Karen nodded slowly. I understand that. I raised 4 children. I know about teaching lessons. Then you understand why I can't just fix this for them. I do. But I also understand what it's like to watch your child struggle when you have the power to help. We sat in silence for a minute. The desert evening was cooling down, painting the sky purple and orange. Somewhere in the distance, a dog was barking. Can I tell you something about Jasmine? Karen asked. Of course. She's the most responsible person I know. She's been working since she was 16, paid her own way through nursing school, never asked for handouts from anyone. She seems like a good person. She is. And she's terrified right now. Not just about the money, but about what this situation is doing to her marriage. What do you mean? Brandon's been angry for 3 days. Not at you exactly, but at himself. He keeps saying he ruined everything, that he destroyed his relationship with his father over money. Jasmine's trying to support him, but she's also trying to figure out how they're going to afford their mortgage payments. They're both adults. They'll figure it out. Maybe. But at what cost? I don't understand. Mr. Mitchell, my daughter loves your son. She married him because she saw the good man you raised. But this situation is showing her a side of Brandon she hasn't seen before. What side is that? The side that makes demands instead of requests. The side that assumes instead of asks. The side that sees family members as resources instead of people. I felt something twist in my sklitosak. That's not who I raised him to be. I know, but it's who he became. Maybe because life was too easy for him. Maybe because he never had to struggle for anything important. I worked 2 jobs to pay his college tuition. He graduated debt-free because I sacrificed for him. And he probably never understood what that sacrifice cost you. She was right. Brandon never saw the extra shifts I worked, the overtime hours, the second job delivering pizza on weekends. He just saw his tuition getting paid, his needs getting met, his future getting secured. Maybe that's my fault, I said. Maybe I should have been more open about our financial situation. Maybe. Or maybe he should have asked more questions about your life instead of assuming he knew everything about it. We watched the sunset for a while. Orange fading to purple, purple fading to black. Streetlights began flickering on throughout the trailer park. What do you want me to do? I finally asked. I want you to find a way to help your son grow up without destroying your relationship with him. And how do I do that? I don't know. But I know that cutting him off completely won't teach him anything, except that his father stopped loving him when he made a mistake. I haven't stopped loving him. I know that. Does he? The question hung in the air between us. I thought about Brandon sitting in his expensive house, wondering if his father would ever forgive him. I thought about Jasmine, pregnant and scared, caught in the middle of a conflict she didn't create. I thought about my future grandchild, who would be born into whatever remained of our family when this crisis ended. Thank you for coming by, I told Karen. Thank you for listening. After she left, I sat on my porch until almost midnight, thinking about love and lessons and the difference between helping and enabling. Sometimes the hardest part of being a parent isn't knowing what's right. Sometimes the hardest part is knowing what's right and doing it anyway. Sunday morning, I drove to Brandon and Jasmine's house, the first time I'd ever been there. It was beautiful. 2 stories, desert landscaping, 3-car garage, the kind of house I could have bought with cash 20 times over, but chose not to. Brandon answered the door in sweatpants and a wrinkled t-shirt. He looked like he hadn't slept well in days. Dad, I didn't expect to see you. We need to finish our conversation. He led me into their living room. Hardwood floors, granite countertops, stainless steel appliances visible through the kitchen doorway. Jasmine was on the couch, reading a pregnancy book. She looked up and gave me a small smile. Hi, Dad. Hi, Jasmine. I sat down across from them and pulled out a single sheet of paper from my wallet, a cashier's check I'd picked up from the bank that morning. This is a check for $100,000, I said, placing it on the coffee table between us. Brandon stared at it. Dad, what is this? It's a gift, for the baby, for your family, for your future. I thought you said you wouldn't help us. I said I wouldn't be taken for granted. I said I wouldn't be treated like a resource instead of a person. I said respect matters more than money. Jasmine was crying. Thank you. We don't deserve this. You're right. You don't deserve it. Nobody deserves their parents' money, but sometimes love means giving people what they need instead of what they deserve. Brandon picked up the check with shaking hands. This doesn't solve all our problems, but it helps. It helps a lot. It's not supposed to solve all your problems. It's supposed to give you breathing room while you solve them yourselves. What changed your mind? Your mother. She used to say that love isn't what you give, it's what you teach. I've been trying to teach you about respect, but I also need to teach you about forgiveness. Brandon nodded, tears running down his face. I'm sorry, Dad, for everything. I know you are. Don't apologize with words anymore. Apologize with actions. What kind of actions? Be the father you want your son to remember. Be the husband Jasmine deserves. Be the man I tried to raise. I stood up to leave, then turned back one more time. And call me once a week, not when you need something, just to talk. I will. I love you both. We love you too. I drove home thinking about Linda and legacy and the difference between enabling and empowering. Some lessons are worth learning. Some relationships are worth saving. Some love is worth everything. If this story resonated with you, I'd appreciate you hitting that subscribe button. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever been taken for granted by family? How did you handle it? What would you have done in my situation?